How do you handle your audience's Zoom fatigue? It's the modern crisis of our times. We can't ask people to put their screens away and pay attention to us up on stage when it's through these screens that we communicate. My name's Kaylin Huntress. I'm the Director of Virtual Training for eSpeakers, and I dive deep into the mechanics of Zoom fatigue, what it is, why it happens, and how we can handle it as speakers. I'm going to show you an excerpt from a recent virtual host certification workshop that I taught to eSpeakers members to help them understand what Zoom fatigue is, and more importantly, how we can handle it. The study done recently by Stanford, and they came up with the ZEF scale, the Zoom Exhaustion Fatigue Scale. And what they did is they surveyed 3,000 people, and they asked them a survey of 15 questions to measure their general, visual, social, emotional, and motivational fatigue. Lots of different types of fatigue, because they wanted to get to the bottom of why do we experience Zoom fatigue? What are the contributing factors? And they found their findings that they published had 4 contributing factors. And the first is that excessive amounts of close-up eye contact is highly intense. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides for a minute. And I want to look at you. It's really intense. And the more that so go from, if you're still in gallery view, come on over into speaker view and everybody lean in and just give a glare. All right, now come from the camera and look at your Zoom and look at people staring at you. That's psychologically intense. Check in with yourself. How do you feel right now?
You're in my space.
Yeah. It's kind of confronting, right? Yeah. And that's one of the contributing factors to Zoom fatigue, but it's only one of the 4. The second contributing factor they found is that seeing yourself during video chats constantly in real time is fatiguing. It's one thing to check the mirror in the morning before you leave, but it's another thing to have a mirror sitting in front of you on your desk all day long.
Yeah.
The third contributing factor they found is that we're not moving as much as we're accustomed to. We might have back-to-back Zoom meetings where we're sitting in the same chair all day for hours at a time. But if you had back-to-back meetings in an office, you'd get up and go to that meeting in another room. You'd have time to stretch your legs. You could chat with people in the hallway or around the water cooler, but without the movement, we calcify into these chairs. The fourth contributing factor they found is that our cognitive load is stressed because we've lost the ability to interpret nonverbal communication from other people in the room. And as you might know, nonverbal communication is the majority of how we communicate with one another. And without hearing the gasps and the pauses in breath, the subtle movements in body positioning that tell us when people are engaged or they're not engaged, our brains have to work a lot harder to interpret what's really happening in the room. So these are the 4 problems that Stanford identified that leads to Zoom fatigue. All 4 of these problems can be fixed with play. Play is the antidote to Zoom fatigue. Play is an invitation to joy. It gives us a way to enjoy our work. It increases our cognitive faculties, brings up enthusiasm, and allows us to contribute creatively to the experience. So we're going to play a lot of games during these workshops. And the first one is a scavenger hunt. Now, I'm not going to show you these games in this video. You can see some of the other videos for demonstrations of how to facilitate these games. But games and exercises and interactivity, this is the easiest way to banish Zoom fatigue from your presentations. As speakers, we have a tendency to speak at our audience, but when we can shift that to create an experience with them on Zoom, that's how you get behind Zoom fatigue. And that's what I teach you how to do in the Virtual Host Certification Workshop. We teach these every 2 months. They're live workshops, and there's a link in the description of this video. And if you'd like to join us in one of our upcoming workshops, then you can be leading better presentations and meetings on Zoom so that people are excited when they see you in your Zoom grid. And they know that they're going to have an engaging experience. So look at the link below, and I hope to see you in an upcoming workshop. Have fun out there.